Good goggling gog, I'm gogging my gog right now. Excuse me? Wait, are you a bird? No. Ladies, gentlemen, and masters of all ages, with the recent major title update with Gogmazios, his equipment, and his unique changes to the Artian system, as well as the start of the Lumenhim Festival, we have quite a bit of new gear and equipment in the game right now. Usually when this type of thing happens, the best builds, the high-end stuff, change out and new stuff takes over for at least a couple of the weapon types, if not more of them, and with the wide sweeping additions we've had in Title Update 4, the best builds for every weapon is way better than it was before, and a lot of them are quite a bit different. So today let's go over how these new weapons and armor sets will affect the top-end offensive builds, often referred to as meta sets, with the caveat that I'm not going to try and present a hyper-optimized specialized build for every one of the 14 different weapon types. We'll go over how good the new stuff is, what you're looking to use it with or for, and then we'll go over a couple of generic templates of builds that will apply for most weapons extremely well, but of course, one build can't apply perfectly optimized to all the weapons. So if you're fully interested in fully filled out builds for each one, I recommend checking out creators who focus on those weapons specifically, or we do also have our own specific build guides going out on the channel for every weapon that we cover, with a few of them already out, and a few of them still coming over the next few days. First things first, then let's talk about the actual new equipment stuff because there is quite a bit going on compared to most updates. The topic to begin with, as it affects pretty much everything else we're going to be talking about today, is the new Gogma Artian weapons. Since the release of the game, Artian weapons have been the strongest in 95% of situations for the majority of weapon types. Crafted weapons weren't crazy far behind, and so there were niche situations where they were useful, and you weren't punished too hard if you wanted to use them instead of using Artian weapons for whatever reason. Now, Gogma Artian weapons are just, even on a pure number standpoint, so much better than anything else in the game that you're just really nerfing yourself if you ignore these. And I don't know that there is a single weapon type where statistically it would be worth using a crafted weapon over a Gogma Artian with good rolls now. Gogma Artians are the new standard, and even a Gogma Artian with middling rolls on it is better than any other weapon in the game. Don't ignore this system. Even if you hate RNG, interact with it for like an hour or two maybe, and you'll still be able to end up with something better than crafted weapons very quickly. Past the raw stats on these as well, they are even more relevant if you really engage with the system, because they can roll with both one part of a set bonus and one part of a group bonus as well. So if you get a truly perfect rolled Gogma Artian weapon, you can completely make just different builds than someone who does not have that weapon. It has made build crafting as a concept way more intriguing and complex than it has been for the entire lifecycle of Wilds, and arguably more complex than the majority of Monster Hunter games full stop. If you like coming up with your own builds, this is a beautiful thing, but it also means that the gap between a perfect build and an imperfect build is no longer just like a little bit of damage, it can also just be full functional changes due to set bonuses. For the sake of mentioning it while we're on the topic, for a large amount of weapons, the ideal builds want you to have either 4 attack boosts and a sharpness boost reinforcement, or for some weapons you want 1 affinity boost instead of one of the attack rolls, though in most situations that I have personally mathed out, the attack reinforcements usually come out ahead. For set and group bonus, the group bonus is pretty much always going to want to be Lord's Soul, as it frees up an armor slot to be used either for more set bonuses or just better skill efficiency. For the set bonus, it is a little bit more malleable, it depends on your weapon type and the build that you're going for, but the one that comes up the most frequently is Gore Magala's Tyranny, the Gore Magala set bonus, as that can give you a ton of affinity after you clear the Frenzy, and the Gore Magala armor pieces themselves are pretty meh for skills despite the set bonus being good. Or the Odogaron set bonus is another frequently used one too for burst boost, but Odogaron armor is actually quite good in its own right, especially now with the new Transcended Armor system, which is the next thing I need to quickly touch on here too. Transcending an armor piece upgrades it to have a higher defense limit, which is true for all armor, but for Rarity 5 and Rarity 6 armor pieces specifically, you also get more decoration slots and upgraded decoration slots. This often turns level 2 slots into level 3 slots, which is really big. We do have a full video on the Transcending system and armor pieces that benefit the most from it if you do want to check that out, but the long and short of it is that Rarity 5 and Rarity 6 armor is much better than it was before the patch, and some pieces are finding their way into meta builds as a result, much more so than they used to do. That said, let's talk about the actual new armor pieces that were added in the title update. We got 2 new pieces of headgear in the form of different high-tech glasses. The Analytic Eye is 2 weakness exploit and a couple of 2-slot sockets. It's generally not like a bad piece of armor, but the current top-end builds essentially require every one of the armor pieces to be used as a set bonus or group bonus, and a lot of the armor sets that have those are at least as good as this one, with their group and set bonus on top as well. So this isn't bad, but it's not great. Mirror Visor is the other new helmet, 4 evade window and a 3-slot socket. If you want full evade window, this is a pretty good step towards it, but full 5 ranks of evade window is a comfort luxury skill, something that you would only choose to work in if you really want it. It's not something that contributes towards direct damage, so it does have its places, it has its niches, but it won't be used in the highest damaging builds absolutely for sure. We also had the Orion set that was added in as the sort of secondary festival set, the second set that we got. It obviously doesn't have the festival set bonus, it doesn't have particularly noteworthy skills really, it has decent decoration space, but it's not going to be used in a good damage focused build either. After that we have the festival armor set itself, and this might surprise you, but it's actually extremely decent. It has some pretty solid skills on some of the pieces themselves, it has some latent power, some agitator, some divine blessing, which may not be an offensive skill, but it is a super top tier utility skill, and then some other stuff is on the side of this too. The best generic template that I've got for this set does involve a Gogma Artian weapon, and while I'll give you a less RNG focused template for the proper like general meta template later, this one does require a specific set bonus to keep up, but not a specific group bonus, so it's not a super crazy requirement, but it is of course using the gore magala 2 set bonus. We use that with the 4 pieces of ceremony armor and then 1 piece of gore magala armor to finish that off, and the ceremony armor itself, after transcending it, actually has excellent decoration space. I filled this out with the best offensive skills to sort of fill those slots for most weapons. I did math out the difference between weakness exploit versus agitator and stuff, and agitator came out on top with this specific setup. And to also give you an example of how I'll be doing these templates for the rest of the video, I'm showing it with a sword and shield, but I'm not using like sword and shield specific skills within the build itself. I'm using a generic god roll talisman, so things like attack boost 3, and a relevant high tier armor skill is the second thing, and then it's a rarity 8 talisman for the weapon socket on it too. And if you don't have a talisman like this and you're going to use a crafted talisman instead, a really good option would be the latent power charm, which is just 3 ranks of latent power, and then you could replace the slot that I've got for a skill like flare in the decorations with just another rank of agitator. For weapon decorations, I'm generally going to be putting in critical boost 5 and then 1 slot for either sharpness management, or obviously things like greatsword want focus, things like insect glaive want airborne, stuff along those lines, but 2 slots for crit management, which sometimes will be critical eye, like right here, but usually is just full crit boost. In this set then, I've got 1 rank of flare in as a decoration because flare was updated in this patch, it was improved, and it's actually quite solid now for specifically 1 rank. But you could replace that with adrenaline rush or something along those lines that fits your specific weapon. Same with the chain jewel that I have in if you're a weapon that doesn't like the burst skill. All that out of the way then, this isn't a build video, it's a discussion about the meta that has some build templates within it, so I won't go through the full math, but this set on a Gogma Artian weapon with 4 attack rolls, which is also very standard, hits an effective raw of 536.5. We'll compare this to Title Update 4 generic sets in a little bit, but the old generic set from after Arch-Tempered New Udra was 511 effective raw, so it's better than most weapons could do in prime meta before the Title Update 4. And getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, it's actually only about 5% less effective raw than the new overall best generic template set that I have. But that's just to say that for the duration of the Lumen Hymn Festival, this build is more than viable as far as raw stats, but then you also get bonus quest rewards at the end of a hunt like meal tickets or barrel bowling vouchers from the set bonus itself, and then also the group bonus from the festival armor lets you carve in extra time. And with the set being good enough to take on something like Gogmazios, for example, as again it is only 5% less effective raw than the best version of a generic template in Title Update 4, that extra carve can be quite useful in its own right. It can give you extra chances at something like a gem, which are very, very important, especially right now. Then we've got the Gogmazios Armor, which is quite cool too. We do again have a full video going over this armor set if you want the full breakdown, but the simple explanation is that it has decent skills and decoration slots. Every single armor piece, both the alpha and beta versions, have different set bonus contributions for other monsters than just Gogmazios, so you can use them as stand-ins, and so sometimes you will see a Gogmazios piece used just because it helps towards getting burst boost, for example. But then the Gogmazios set bonus itself is actually also incredible for elemental builds specifically. What it does is give you a bonus 20 flat element and an extra 20% of your weapon element for the 2 set bonus, and then the 4 set version of the bonus is plus 40 flat element and an extra 30% of your weapons element, and both of these only apply when the monster is enraged, but that is still extremely good. And the 4 set bonus does also come with a barrier that will negate a few hits of damage when they connect with you while the monster is enraged, but that's just sort of a secondary bonus, not really something that we're considering for this sort of damage build comparison. Purposeful element stacking, past just having like an element on your weapon in a raw attack focused build, is only really meta for like a few weapons at this moment, but they all build around different things, so I won't try and give you any sort of template for like an elemental build specifically. We do have dual blade, bow, and charge blade builds up on the channel right now that already cover those options for those weapons. Instead, now that we have talked about all of the new equipment and changes in general, let's go over some more proper meta templates. This was the generic template I offered for Title Update 3, just for a little bit of comparison if you want to see it. Then we have the one that is the most recent generic template, which was after the release of Arch-Tempered New Udra. This was also updated now to include the Gogma Artian weapon, just for the sake of the increased attack numbers, because the build itself doesn't change, it just improves, and so we can use this for comparison against the new stuff. We aren't using the set or group bonus from the Gogma Artian weapon in the slightest, and adjusted for the new numbers for the new weapon, the effective raw of this build from before Title Update 4 would be 549.3. This is, in itself, a 9.5% damage increase over the exact same build using the old best Artian weapon rolls, so the weapon by itself is a massive damage increase just from the stat changes on that. And that is the thing that I really want to make the most clear in this video. More than anything else, upgrade your weapon and throw your resources at reinforcing it. Even if you don't get a perfect Gog weapon, even just having a decent Gog weapon is so much better than what we used to have. The gap between not having a Gogma Artian and having one is bigger than you might expect, even with no other changes to your build. That said, let's get into the next layer here, without considering set or group bonuses from the Gogma Artian weapon, so still trying to minimize the RNG a little bit. We can upgrade that build, but only very minorly. We change over to using Ebony Odogaron pieces transcended up, and we get the Ebony Odogaron 2-set bonus as a result. We also have some other changes in the build too, and this is the full set here. You just want to adjust the actual things as you need to in the decoration slots to fit your specific weapon. That said, this specific setup, the way I have it here, hits 549.6 effective raw. You heard that right, it is 0.3 effective raw higher, which is like half of 0.001% difference in damage, but not only does it rely less on latent power to get there because it has one less rank of that skill, but also it has more utility space, and it has 2 ranks of earplugs, which lets you ignore roars from the majority of monsters, and that does result in more damage, even if it's not something that you can easily add on to the math there. There's a lot of things that you can do for specific particular weapons that often will have a larger gap from their best builds before the update and afterwards, but the generic set specifically has actually only been improved a minor amount in this variation. However, now we can get into the fun template, which is the generic build template if you do have a perfectly rolled Gogma Artian weapon. This would mean that you have the gore magala set bonus and the Lord Soul group bonus rolled on it at the same time. This lets you completely shift the armor set around, use different pieces, and get essentially 2 set bonuses and the Lord Soul group bonus, which is pretty awesome to have all of. This build has some space to mess around with to customize it for your specific weapon type or just playstyle preferences, and the effective raw for this one is 565.3. That means it is a nearly 3% increase over the version that does not take advantage of set or group bonus from weapon. That isn't a crazy amount of damage change, but it is a reasonable increase when you consider our baseline power has also jumped up a bunch from before the update. This is also right around a 3% upgrade over the old best generic set with the new weapon plugged into it, but the stark difference comes when you compare this with the old best thing that we could accomplish before the title update. Not adjusting for the new weapons, just literally what the build was before title update 4. This is now a 10.6% increase over that build, not even counting the fact that this new build also has 0 ranks of latent power, so it is far more consistent with its damage application as well. All that stuff said, our next Arch-Tempered monster is right around the corner, very much just right there, and it will of course come with both new armor and the talisman upgrade or 2 as well, so this stuff could be subject to a bit further change after that happens, but I did want to give you guys a sort of general update of where we are right now so you can better equip yourself for the Arch-Tempered fight itself. And a reminder that the actual build templates I offered were made to be as good as possible for as many weapons as possible. You can generally optimize much harder for a specific weapon if you want to, and so I do recommend checking out either our own build guides or other Monster Hunter creators, as there are a ton of high quality channels out there making Monster Hunter videos of their own too. I hope you've enjoyed this then, and hopefully it helps you to understand just how big of a jump we have taken with Title Update 4. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.